Well, hello, my baby gorillas. And this thing I can keep stalling. So I can't even get to go out on time because of the freezing. And it's still freezing when I'm actually live streaming on this. And for some reason, just stops in the middle of any transmissions and freezes. And it's an absolute disaster. No continuity. I don't understand what is wrong with this. Let me just make sure that I'm coming through okay, and let's crack on with this. Oh, hello.
We're here today to see why people everywhere are upgrading their water filters to zero water.
Any transmissions and freezes, and it's an absolute disaster. Well, that's sounding absolutely perfect. Continuity. I don't understand what is wrong with this. Let me just make sure that I'm coming through okay. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. Let's have a wee look at Michael Heaver. If you haven't subscribed to Michael, subscribe. He's a very good and knowledgeable commentator, political commentator. He seems to get information before it actually comes out. So, as we know, that the Tories do not want to stop mass immigration. In fact, they have been the cornerstone of mass immigration and the political exponents of mass immigration over the last 40 years. And the globalist agenda, don't forget, we're all getting gaslit because they're allowing people just to walk into the country. We don't even know who they are, where they're from, and people are not being deported. So let's hear Michael talk about the human rights and the fact that the Conservative Party will not come out of the human rights legislation, thereby being able to deport people who shouldn't be here and here illegally, who have come here illegally, but actually been facilitated by our government for people going and collecting them and bringing them across from the safe country of France, because we're being gaslit by the Conservative Party, who are not conservative but just greedy, fat, corporatist globalists. That is the raison d'etre, and they will not do anything until the British public votes for a party who will erase the human rights legislation from the UN. Only at that point will we actually get a political party that will actually respect our borders, because the Conservative Party and any guise that's coming up will not respect our borders.
No mistake about it, the illegal migration crisis is continuing. I think it's close to 28,000 people who've come across from France to England via small boats illegally this year, compared to about 8,400 in 2020, which of course was a quadrupling on 2019. We've seen an extremely dangerous situation get worse and worse, sadly, this year. And this is continuing. We've just seen over 1,000 people crossing the channel in the last week or so. And just to remind ourselves, of course, that of those who have come to England via this route in 2021, just five people deported. Previous reports were that only about 6% of people.
So don't forget that Boris, before he even got elected, didn't want to deport illegal immigrants here who had already been here and wanted to give out amnesties. Boris does not want to deport even criminals, even terrorists, never mind illegal immigrants. So he's not prepared, and near the Conservative Party, to do anything about this. They're actually facilitating it. So the Conservative Party, fake Conservative Party, are actually a globalist shill party who believe in open borders, but it's not in their manifesto. But they de facto believe in open borders and that anybody should be allowed to come here. Yet gaslight and kid on that they brought in this legislation and that they're prepared to do anything, which they're not. They're basically lying to the British public, who want something done about illegal immigrants.
Who came to the UK illegally by this route were being deported. Hey, it looks to me like that number, that percentage, may have decreased even further. And we know that a big element of this is the ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights.
So it's the European Convention on Human Rights, and I think this is different from the EU Convention. And the European court seems to be doing very little in the way of justice as well.
The Human Rights Act. In fact, the Justice Secretary and Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab has himself said that the lion's share of people who successfully appeal against removal from the UK use Article 8 of the ECHR, enshrined in UK law by the Human Rights Act. Now, of course, Dominic Raab has talked a lot about reforming the Human Rights Act. Well, I don't think you're going to like this because on the government's own website now, this is all pretty...
So it says here on the government website, the plan to reform the Human Rights Act. The Human Rights Act will be revised under plans unveiled by the Justice Secretary Dominic Raab today, 14th of December.
Clear. Their plan to reform the Human Rights Act, proposed new legislation, aims to strike a proper balance between individuals' rights, personal responsibility and the wider public interest. This would be achieved, it reads, while retaining the UK's commitment to the European Convention on Human Rights. The government say that crucially, the proposed measures will restore Parliament's role as the ultimate decision maker on laws impacting the UK population, allowing more scope to decide how we interpret rulings from the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. This will put an end to us gold plating any decisions made by Strasbourg when we incorporate them into UK law. However, the UK will remain party to the ECHR and continue to meet its obligations under the Convention and all other international human rights treaties. Government saying that ministers will ensure the UK Supreme Court has the final say on UK rights by making clear that they should not blindly follow the Strasbourg Court. It will mean that rights are interpreted in a UK context with respect to the country's case law traditions and the intention of its elected lawmakers. Look, at the end of the day, the only way we're going to know if these reforms make a jot of difference is if we see those disgracefully low removal numbers in terms of illegal immigration, if they change things.
They've even stopped deporting criminals who've done horrendous acts to British citizens. So, and supported by the Labour Party, the failure to deport.
Significantly. My feeling is they won't. My feeling is when you even had a Remainer in Home Secretary Theresa May saying she had to leave the ECHR. That is what needs to be done. Why the government are not going down that route, I don't know. It seems to me they're not being radical enough on this, but let me know what you think.
I don't think it's really radical. I don't understand why people can just... Would you just allow somebody to walk into your house? Why would you allow that?
Of what the government...
But it's been deliberately facilitated by the Conservative Party and it's not even in their manifesto.
Have had to say there. Do you have faith that these reforms being put forward by Dominic Raab while remaining committed to the ECHR?
It's not in the, I mean, it's not in their manifesto to have de facto open borders, and they've done that for 40 years.
HR will make a big difference or not. Keen to hear your thoughts, and as ever, if you enjoyed this video, please do give this video a big thumbs up. It really does help out my channel. And of course, as ever, guys, thanks so much for watching.
Great, another great thing by Michael there. That's fantastic, Michael Haver. If you haven't subscribed, go and subscribe. So let's have a look at Twitter. You guys on? I know I've been mucking you guys about a bit, but nobody's here. Nobody's having a chat. Why have you been so late in getting together, Dave? We're all the way to our bed. So, what have we got? If the SNP hadn't cut the council budget so savagely over the years, the council tax rises would be far smaller than they would be. Council tax rises now inevitable across Scotland. Warn experts, council tax rises are inevitable following the adoption of the cap in the Scottish budget, with rises of up to 30% in some areas. Experts have warned under the Scottish Government rules, local authorities will be able to utilise powers which allow them to up rates to raise revenue and services. So there's the government ministers of the Doughballs, and none of them make it wearing any masks. All right, I see rules for thee, but not for me. I see. So what have we got here? Police renew appeal to identify a man who keeps exposing himself in the public to the public at Burnley Beauty Spot. Oh, aye. This is quite interesting by Ariella.
One of my students asked me why every conversation in class devolves into me ranting about capitalism. It's because I'm the teacher that your parents warned you about. I'm the
Oh, well, that reassures me then.
professor that's going to turn your kids leftist.
Man, I would have a look at that and go to exactly the opposite. that would be my
Welcome.
that would be my push away from anything that you were actually recommending.
Ranting about capitalism
Oh my
on your
goodness.
iPhone while there's an Apple TV in the background. Believe it or not, it's not the stupidest thing I've seen this week. Watch the whole video, you'll know what I mean. Hi,
I absolutely love Ariella.
I'm Ariel, the lesbian that leftists love to hate, and I'm gonna do another damage control video today.
I think Ariel is also similar to me, a libertarian liberal. I think she's done her political compass test, although you have to do it by yourself, Ariel. So
We're gonna talk about schools, the education system. What are we up against? I remember back when I was in high school, it was cool to be the bisexual girl that wasn't really bisexual. Self or for a friend for the holidays. Please continue to support brands who support this channel to keep us going. Okay, so back to wokeness. Teachers are now bragging on TikTok about getting students suspended for calling them the wrong pronouns. And then there's this guy.
I teach high school, and most days of the week I come to school in stilettos. I get to stand at about 6'6".
you really want to start sacking these people?
And the reason why is so I can create an explicitly queer space for all of my students.
You're not there to create a queer space.
That way they know that this place is a place for them, by
For who? The vast majority of the people in there will be heterosexual.
them, and because I never had one of those growing up.
But it's not about you. You're there to teach and educate the pupils.
So, yeah. Bit of a beast.
Why don't you just do that in your own time? Let's just skip along, see what this character's saying.
Fit check.
This is why it was advantageous to have school uniforms so everybody looked relatively the same, and the teachers were due to turn up with some sort of suitable attire on.
My admin's actually very okay with me
Although it is quite libertarian, mind you, but
wearing heels. I'm coming to school in drag sometimes. I used to put on makeup, but now it's too early in the morning, so that's not happening anymore. But like, yeah, they're pretty cool with it. They just think I'm making a safe place for my kids.
Again.
a safe space for your kids. It's meant to be school. It's meant to be a safe place for your kids. I think you're pushing an ideology which shouldn't be in school.
I really don't find issue with somebody dressing in drag as long as it's
I don't know if it's appropriate.
not super sexualized, as long as it's not sexualized at all, I should say. But I would be curious to see if this gay drag queen teacher thinks it would be acceptable for people that aren't male, that present as male, that identify as like gender fluid or trans or whatever, to be allowed in women's or young women's bathrooms and such in schools. I would be curious.
See, this is the problem with TERFs. They've got penisophobia, and this is usually coming from lesbians who obviously do not like penises.
Parents will be able to see any changes to a student's chosen name or gender marker. Okay, so they will be able to see anything. Okay, I mean, so yeah, with this I'm on the fence too. Let's leave this up.
Video and then hand the phone over to the young kids. Hi there. I get asked a lot, are you a boy or a girl? And
Nobody cares what you are. You're there to teach the kids. I don't know what subject. I don't know how it works in America if you teach subjects, but this should not be an issue in the school. Wee Nippy would probably love this.
and I love that question. And so I wanted to just tell you.
That this is not really appropriate for a school. People are going to know that you're gay anyway. And if you want to dress like that, it's just a bit strange to be dressing like that in school where you would expect a teacher not to actually divulge their sexuality. Why are you telling... I didn't have any teachers telling me what their sexuality was when I was in school.
Sometimes human beings are more than boy or girl.
No, they're not.
Sometimes we're something else.
No, you're not.
Sometimes we're both.
No, you're not.
Sometimes
You're just a gay man dressed up as a woman.
we kind of float.
No, you don't.
in between, and sometimes
No, you don't.
we're a boy, sometimes we're
No, you're not. You see the boys or
a
girls.
girl. Because
You're just a gay man.
human beings are creatures,
Yes, we know that. Thanks.
and we're wild
That's not exactly revolutionary.
and exciting.
Yeah, you're there to teach your children. What are you doing in a classroom? That is my big question.
Not a fan of their content, obviously.
Not a fan of the content. Listen, there's nothing wrong with being gay, and there's nothing wrong with even explaining homosexuality in the right context, in the right part of classroom. But you're meant to be there to teach children. So if I had a teacher like that, and even if he was that guy seemed like a nice fellow, that I'm there to learn about maths, not about his sexuality and what he wears in his face. It should be neutral, not to put the individual off the concentration to actually learn the subject. And I'm not there to be indoctrinated into homosexuality.
And I don't think that you can float between being a girl and a boy. What you mean is floating between masculine and feminine present.
If you can float between me obviously being a lady now, that means that we can start dating. Ariel.
Presentations of how you physically present, that's fine. But that's not what makes a boy, a girl, a girl. Credit where
No, it's penis in a vagina.
credit is due, though. I do think that it was good of them to say for the parents to watch the video first. Otherwise, it would have definitely seemed even more creepy than it already is. I do think that
It's not even creepy. It's just inappropriate. You're there to teach children about a subject. You're not there for a fashion night out in school. You're there to be as professional as you can to teach a subject, or however they teach it in America.
this was an interesting take on all of this. Somebody tweeted this on Twitter in response to this video. They said, any movement that preaches to women and children to trust what the strange man tells you about his identity before trusting your own instincts is a predatory movement. And yeah, I mean, to play devil's advocate on both sides though, I do want to say that I don't think all of this person's content is bad. I think that they do have some decent ideas. Some. This was one video that I thought had a good message behind it.
So let me put it in a different context. Say the person was heterosexual and they were pushing their heterosexuality in front of your children. Would you find that appropriate? And the answer is quite obviously no. The sexuality of the teacher and their identity, whatever it is, should be the most, especially the sexual identity, should be the least important subject in a classroom. Say you're teaching maths, why would that be an issue in a maths lecture?
Its name, I don't know what to say. I learned their name.
Hello, beautiful. I hope someone, a trans person, has told you thank you.
The deepest voice for a woman.
I would rather, this is just me, but I would rather have you opening your big, wide, wonderful...
But they're all so entitled. You're not entitled for me to do anything. I'll do whatever I choose to do. You're not there to dictate to me how I should speak and what I should do and blah, 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 and tiptoe around you. I don't care if you're offended.
heart to people like me.
Ooh, people like me.
And stumbling and fumbling.
Just a gay man.
And getting it wrong, but
I'm not getting it wrong.
Enthusiastically, than to have you disengaged and afraid to say the wrong thing.
I don't care if I say the wrong thing. What happens if I say the wrong thing?
People like me, gender delightful people, have gone from people thinking we're freakish and weird.
Well, it's not just like any other gay man. Bit feminine, but apart from that.
To people being afraid to say the wrong thing around
No, I'm a Glaswegian. We can say whatever we choose.
us. Both ways, we're lonely.
Well, if that's different. If you're lonely, then I would suggest you socialise around other gay men. The problem with gay men and potentially this type of gay man is that they try and crack on to heterosexual men. Now, some bisexual men who would placate that, who would go and be with a trans person, but for heterosexual men like Ariel, who is a lesbian, but the same principle applies. We wouldn't entertain somebody who was of the same gender. In Ariel's case, of a different gender. Don't know how changed the individual would have to be for Ariel to have conjugal relations, but it would not matter how advanced surgery that a gay man had who was born with a penis. To me, if they tricked me into having sex, which hopefully, touch wood, hasn't happened, that would to me be sexual assault and rape, depending on how far the interlude went. I would never consent to doing anything with anybody who was a gay man with a penis cut off. That to me is just homosexuality. So it's not, but I'm not against somebody doing that, but they should then go, and gay men should go for other gay men or bisexual men, as should trans people. I am not, as a heterosexual man, going to flip and say, all right, okay, at any point in my life, okay, this is other than homosexuality. And being heterosexual, I'm not interested in that. And that's the reality, to the point that it is, to me, is a crime. Just the same way, if somebody is forced to have sex, to me, sex by deception it should be a crime. And that's it. So, Ariel, go and subscribe to Ariel. So here we go, Toby Young. Are you guys here? Is anybody here? No, still nobody here. No comments. Are we on? Are we actually on? Let's just check. Honestly, they absolutely throttle this channel.
BTC,
for watching.
DeFi, NFTs. This industry is heating up as people get excited.
What are you saying? You guys here? Is anybody here? Let's see if this is...
Your name?
Hello, beautiful. I hope someone, a trans person, has told you thank you.
The deepest voice for a woman. Right, that's quite funny. Right, okay, so we're all here anyway. So let's keep going then. Harry Miller has just won a huge victory in the Court of Appeal. Court has ruled that the recording of non-crime hate incidents is unlawful. Of course it is. Interference in freedom of expression. That's brilliant. That's absolutely excellent. And that's from Toby Young of the Free Speech Union. And of course it is. I mean, the Orwellian authoritarianism that's come out of Boris the Libertarian not getting gaslighted at all, the public not getting gaslit at all. For goodness sake. That as bringing in all these authoritarian measures under the globalist agenda. Was it a hoax? She made up the story of racial abuse and the hijab pulled to cover for the fact that she engaged in a mutual brawl with a non-white boy at school. She was punished for the fight and wanted revenge against the school. Hundreds of students rally outside a high school in Fairfax, Virginia on Thursday after a Muslim student said a group of boys harassed her. Was it a hoax? She made up the story. So there's another potential made up story. Hundreds of students rally outside a school in Fairfax, Virginia on Thursday after Muslim student says group of boys harassed her and went through her onto a desk and removed her hijab. This is in the Washington Post, is it? Washington Post. Who's in this? Muslim student in Fairfax, hateful insults attack. If we didn't feel safe in our environment, our school, then something has to be done. Now, there's been multiple lies and hate speech, and it's coming from certain communities. And what we need to do is start putting people in jail. If this is a hoax, I don't know if this is the 16th of December. Drew Walter. So we don't know if this is a Jussie Smollett incident again. We do know that it says in the Quran for Muslims to lie to non-Muslims, and obviously we've seen Muslims before playing the victim. Hundreds of students rally outside a high school in Fairfax, Virginia on Thursday after a Muslim student says a group of boys harassed her and threw her on a desk and removed her hijab. The student the student and her alleged attacker were given equal punishment and made to serve in-school suspension in same room. Students said, "Justice now, end hate." A crowd on Fairfax High School students chanted Thursday. The student told friends she worried no one was listening to her story. Her classmates not only listened, they shouted. No peace! No justice! No peace! I mean, you've got to laugh when a Sri Lankan guy was just setting fire and beaten to death in Pakistan by a Muslim mob. These doughballs in America are talking about hate. And this is, unfortunately, we've got a bunch of, I don't know if they've actually been educated on what it says in the Quran with sex slavery and the 300 million people dead, and I'm not sure if they understand what's actually there to be chanting and showing Islamic signs, and the reason that people are in hijabs is to identify them so they're not raped by Muslims. I'm not sure if they understand all that, and if all of that's hate, but or whether they're just getting gaslit again, if this is another Jussie Smollett. Right, okay. So we've got a whole bunch of now politicised kiddlywinks who don't understand what it is and what it probably Islam actually is. The student says the victim and the boy who assaulted her, I thought it was a group of boys. Said a group of boys harassed her, one threw her to the ground. Okay. The student said the victim and the boy who assaulted her were each given an in-school suspension, which they served together in the same room Wednesday. Administration confirmed there was an incident on Thursday, but aren't saying anything more about the details and the punishment. Student Ilza Gill said she and friends were working on a project at school on Thursday when a group of students began harassing them. They were making Islamophobic jokes, talking about Jews, people and Nazis, creating the Islamic symbol and putting an X across it. She said, it sounds like another one of those. What's the name of that? The one that Tom Cruise was in, where there was an abundance of evidence and they could see into the future. Tom Cruise. Pre-crime, Minority Report, that's it. So this is almost like the scene in Minority Report where there's an abundance of evidence, and what has got to start happening is people start to get punished a lot more severely for making false allegations. If you're making false allegations, obviously not in the case of children, but she should maybe be expelled if that is a false allegation. I don't know if this is a false allegation, but it seems like there's an abundance of evidence. Ikran Muhammad said she confronted one of the boys and lightly shoved him away. So she attacked the boy. She attacked the boy. What? Student Eliza Gill said she and friends were working on a project at school on Tuesday when a group of students began to harass them. They were making these Islamophobic jokes, talking about Jewish people, Nazis, creating the Islamic symbol. All right, okay, I don't know what the Islamic, I don't know if they're talking about the crescent and putting an X through it across it. She said, Ikram Muhammad said she confronted one of the boys and lightly shoved him away. He shoved her back violently. All right, I see. So she basically caused the situation and now playing the victim. All right, I see. So he threw me across the room. I hit she seems to have provoked it. I hit my left side on the desk and my chest hit the chair. She said he removed her hijab and she lay on the ground with the wind knocked out her. I was definitely in shock. So she provoked it, and I would have said that putting across something. This is unclear what all this is. Doesn't say what the actual facts are here. So again, this could be made up, but even making Islamic jokes, well, I mean, it's very difficult not to make jokes about a thing that has sex slaves in it. Talking about people and Nazis, Jewish people and Nazis, right? I don't know what that's got to do with Islam. Unless it's the fact that Islam is very similar to National Socialism, and putting it across through it. Okay. And then she went up and attacked the boy, and then the boy or whoever defended himself. It sounds like a lot of nonsense to me. She removed her hijab and she lay on the ground. I was definitely in shock. I couldn't process what had happened, so I was standing there when my teacher finally lifted her up. Gil said that's when I could actually process in my head, and I ran after her. Student said Fairfax High Administrator gave the boy an in-school suspension. So the boy's attacked, he defends himself, and he's suspended. What they can understand is why Akran got the same punishment, which she actually started. Was forced to serve the suspension in the same room. So why was the guy punished if she was pushing the guy? So she started it, and the guy was punished. If you don't feel safe in your environment, in your school, I don't think Christians feel safe, or Muslims, or not Muslims, Muslims as well, mind you, or Sikhs or Hindus or atheists feel safe in a Muslim environment. And it seems like you've just antagonised the situation. It's you that's pushed the guy. You put the hands on the guy. If we don't feel safe in the school, which you basically promoted. Mohammed said, Fairfax County School confirms that the incident occurred at the school on Tuesday, but declined to provide details. A spokesperson said the school district supports students' right for peaceful protest, and that they are investigating. The City of Fairfax police deputy is investigating and said that the school did not notify them of the alleged assault. They found out because of the student rally. All right, I see. The Council of Islamofascists called CARE, Muslim civil rights. We want civil rights, but there's no civil rights for minorities in a Muslim country. Advocacy group called on the law enforcement to launch a hate crime investigation. Well, it was the Muslim girl that attacked whoever it was. I don't know, it could be a Jewish guy, it could be anything, person. So they attacked them. So surely the hate crime would be the person who was the attacker. The incident must be investigated as a possible hate crime by the law enforcement. Okay. But I don't know how you could have a hate crime against a religion that advocates violence, sexual slavery, killing people. How do you get hate crimes against that? I don't understand. That's like me saying you can create a hate crime against people who want to kill you, like a serial killer. A hate crime against Nazis. But obviously, these guys have got it. The incident must be investigated as a possible hate crime. So this Islamofascist Abraham Hooper says, students say Islamofascism and racism are nothing new in their school. Well, Islamophobia, I think everybody should have a rational fear. What's a rational fear? So let's see what the name of a honestly. Yeah. Oh, fear. It's not spelled. Irrational. Aha. So we should start irrational versus irrational fear. Fear is very common, and anyone said they aren't afraid. The difference between rational fear, called realistic fears, fear of clowns. Let's see if we can get it from this. Single word for rational fears, realistic fear syndrome. Oh my goodness. FIBO, fear of options, fear of missing out, fear of long words, fear of falling in love. Fear of unacceptable transitions. What is the word for rational? I'm sure this is so fear, phobia. Oh, there we go. If phobia is an irrational fear, is there a single word for the fear that is rational? Ah, interesting. This is what we want. A rational fear is an oxymoron. How do you figure that? Are you saying that if a lion was trapped in the room with you, your fear would be irrational? Fear is rational. Phobia is irrational. Fear is rational. Fear is rational. Phobia is irrational. Fear is not necessarily rational. Fear is the unpleasant feeling you have when you think that you are in danger. Some people fear God. How is that rational? Some people fear the judgment of their parents, even though they are grown up. Some fear more spiders than crossing a road. It's not rational either, except rationality is not what makes different phobias from fear. It's the intensity. And yes, a phobia is always non-rational. So being frightened of Islam is non-rational. So Islam, not rational fear. So that's obviously completely nonsense, because we've already seen a guy getting burnt to death in Pakistan, beaten by a crowd who all know what it says in the book. I doubt there is a single word which labels rational fear, but it could be said caution comes Prudence implies rationality. It's not very good. Circumspect, helpful, potential, undesirable. Nah. So we need to get a new word for rational fear. So what could we make up as a new word for rational fear? Have I frozen again? See this thing? Honestly. Absolutely unbelievable, this. Oh, we're back. Oh, aye, that's good. Good of you. That's great. Thank you. So, I've no idea why that keeps cutting out. That's absolutely shocking. You're all very quiet tonight. So, an irrational fear. So, we don't have a word for irrational fear of Islam. That's quite interesting. Let's have a wee quick shifty down here. So it's extremely difficult to learn somewhere where you don't feel even you don't even feel like you're accepted. Well, a lot of people who are atheists and homosexuals and women and non-believers don't feel very accepted in Islamic countries. Muhammad said she felt let down by her school, but lifted by her classmates for an incident that she seems to have provoked. So, quite interesting as well. Fairfax police find no evidence of hate crime. Oh my goodness. In the acceleration that occurred at Fairfax, the City of Fairfax Police is actively investigating an alleged hate crime and assault involving 2 students that occurred at Fairfax on December 14, 2020. The police investigation determined that the physical altercation between 2 Fairfax High School students was not a hate crime. The investigation revealed there was no racial comments made by either students. The female student confirmed her hijab was partially undone during the altercation, exposing her hair. The female student advised that the information posted on several social media sites stating that racial comments were used during the altercation were false. The police department became aware of the social media posts after the incident, immediately initiated an investigation. So we've got an investigation into some girl who's hijab that signals her out so that she's not sexually abused by other Muslims and differentiates her from non-Muslims. Said her hijab exposed some of her hair. Hardly the worst crime ever, is it? Investigated into the physical altercation, but she seems to have attacked the boy. It's Juicy Smollett syndrome manifesting itself, yeah. And until we start punishing the liars, and if she was the person that instigated it and there's no racial or any other situations, then she should have been punished. I don't know what the school punished the boy for. Self-defence shouldn't be punished. It's Juicy Smollett syndrome manifesting itself. It was all a lie. It's always a lie. Then it fits your narrative. I don't believe you. She lied. Smollett, it was another hoax. She admitted so to the police. I see. So the boy was punished by the school by this girl hoaxing it. So this girl should have been expelled. That should have been expelled. And she obviously tried to use this to cause problems and create a false narrative. And then we've got the Islamo-fascists that care in the United States then trying to push it as a hate crime, obviously stirring up racial hatred themselves. They should be sued as well. And then for some reason the school has punished the boy who was attacked allegedly by this person. Please pursue her for her made-up crimes. Yeah, you've got to start putting these people in jail for their lies. Here's some things that are not lies, that are not being pursued by the Labour Party or the Conservative Party, that they've actually caused. One Rotherham girl I worked with only found out her rapist had been released early from prison when she saw him standing outside her house. Police have a duty to inform victims. So they're then intimidating, and the police are doing nothing in Rotherham. There has to be an investigation into the police, the council, the social work, everybody in that borough, the Labour Party. And the Conservative Party won't do it because they're facilitating it through their open border strategy. The witch hunt continues. My lawyers and I know nothing about this, how this is possible. Shocking. How curious that the police don't contact me about this, but conveniently raided my houses 3 times. What the F is going on with these sickos? And that's from the Manchester News. And the Manchester, I think we're going to come on to this, are putting out daft things about looking at women, whereas they're not actually doing anything about the rape of children by Muslims. And that was from Alex Belfield. So here's the spike. The latest month, a German court found a man guilty of genocide against the Yazidis. He had enslaved a 5-year-old Yazidi girl in Iraq and chained her up outside her where she died of thirst. The woke set silence on this case is disgraceful, says Brendan O'Neill. Save the tears for Shamima's victims. Home collateral. What's this? Cultivating a better understanding of the impact of COVID-19, which has been caused by the globalists. The terrifying and totalitarian on the part of the state of New York. New York is proposing Assembly Bill A416, which reads 212A, removal and detention of cases, contacts, carriers who are or may be a danger to the public health. This will set a horrific precedence to lock up anybody that even suspects of being sick. So we're now going to lock up the unwell, because we're obviously Hums are useless as the health secretary can't actually get the ambulances to run. Good to see the SNP getting a grip on grips with one of the major problems facing Scotland as we move towards 2022. 2,000 Scots witches said to be pardoned. They were put to death for supposedly consorting with the devil in a brutal era of religious fervour. But now witches, and it's funny going on from what is going on in New York, that the sick are going to be arrested. And now we've got wee Nippy wasting their time on this nonsense as well, rather than running the country. There we've got the RNLI as a ferry service for illegal immigration, because obviously this is coming from the Conservative Party, and this has been allowed to be facilitated by the Conservative Party. 45 illegal migrants ashore on misty morning in Kent, taxi ferries, the RNLI. My goodness, honestly. Come on. This is on the Mail Online. Let me just get this. Fog-bound for Britain. RNLI help another. Another 45 immigrants, or illegal immigrants, ashore on Wednesday morning in Kent after their boat was bound in the Channel. Migrants were spotted helped ashore by Border Force officials in Dungeness after travelling from France. At least 45 migrants were seen without life jackets stepping on to dry land, totally wrapped up in scarves, bringing the total number of migrants. So by Isabella Nikolic from the Mail Online, published on the 19th of December 2021, at least 45 migrants. Now, there's been thousands. There's been about 2,000 in the last 4 days or 5 days. Migrants have been pulled from the British waters this morning, 27,000 just days before Christmas, right? Morning pushing the total closer to 27,000 just before Christmas. So the Conservative Party are de facto an open immigration party. So let's not kid on that you can trust the Tories for protecting the borders. The fact that they've lied and not been able to put it in the manifestos means that they're just gaslighting, the same as Labour, same as the liberal undemocratic Democrats. This Adonis has been arrested. This by David Atherton. Has been arrested for grooming a 13-year-old girl who in fact was a decoy. The child image was on his phone. So obviously we know what background that this individual, a bit like the same as the girl in America who was lying about the boy who pulled her hijab and said racist things, which was another lie as well. Don't forget, Talia is lying to non-Muslims about Islam, which brings in this word Islamophobia. During a period of intense and relentless grooming, he asked her age and made reference to it many times, also telling her not to tell her mum that they were chatting. He told her he loved her over and over and made creepy references to showering with her and asked about her bra size, telling her age didn't matter and offering to buy her a plethora of expensive gifts. He turned up to meet her today, and when arrested, the police discovered he had a child's image as his screensaver. Oh, well, welcome to Britain. And that's been facilitated by the Conservative Party. To use Alex Salmond's turn of phrase, here's another question. Where would any real believer in Scottish independence endorse EU unionism? Alex Salmond here. That's very correct. Here are a few political quiz questions for the weekend. Why would any real believer in Scottish independence want the weak and chaotic Boris out of Downing Street to be replaced by a more competent unionist politician? Why the 2 years pretense that Downing Street buffoon was capable of resisting the real challenge for the exercise of democratic self-determination? I can't bother reading that. So, if you can remember, before the Trump election, Donald Trump was charged with a sex crime that disappeared when he actually stood and was elected as president. So just before he was cautioned, he was running, just before he got elected, he was running, and this sex crime had appeared from nowhere, and it all of a sudden disappeared once he got elected. And my question is, obviously we know that so many of the what was proposed by the Democrats were all lies, and nothing happens to these politicians who, I mean, it's not an untruth in the fact that they think it's true and it could potentially be true. These are blatant untruths. In fact, again, gaslighting the public. And they make up these lies, get people to lie, and nothing actually happens to the actual liars. We are the person or the politician has blatantly lied, or they've facilitated, just like the Justice Smollett might have been a political facilitation. The fake sexual allegations by somebody under 18 just disappeared as soon as the president got elected. And these fake sex crimes are just they just appear.
Nicola Sturgeon confirmed as much this evening, but she. So now we know we will be able to go ahead with our Christmas plans. Nicola Sturgeon confirmed as much this evening, but she has. So now we know we will be able to.
I don't think anybody's listening to Nicola Sturgeon anymore. Don't know what that is. Am I in the thing, me? No, I'm not. That's obviously not my thing. What happened here? I must be on the main part. Here we go. So let's look down here. So BBC hunt for sensitive news Scotland editor. I saw Mr. Campbell tonight. Nice to see him. Oh, here we go. Here's Tommy Robinson. Listen to this.
When he had
Nice.
So Mohammed was right.
1 second.
How old was I?
Don't dive at the topic.
How old
Don't
was I?
dive at the topic.
How old was I?
Don't dive at the topic. Nice.
How old?
Nice.
When he had sex?
Nice. We're into it. Yes.
So Mohammed had sex with her when she was 9.
Yes.
Do you believe that?
One second. Do you believe that's wrong? Why is it wrong?
Do you believe that's
Why is it wrong?
Why is it wrong?
Why is it wrong?
She was 9, bro.
No.
What's his name?
1 second. 1 second.
She was 9,
1 second.
bro.
Context. 1 second. Context.
She was 9.
Can I speak?
So it appears that people who are following an Islamic religion seem to keep popping up trying to have sex in the UK with underage children. And it happens time and time again, and the British authorities, whether it be the Labour Party or the Conservatives or the Liberals or the SNP or the Greens, don't seem to be doing anything about it.
Themselves a black Trump. Like they're talking to some old rap music, some 90s rap yesterday, and I was thinking, like, God, so many guys use Trump in rap songs in a positive way in the 90s. Yeah. Guys were calling themselves the black Trump. Like,
apparently some people are the gay Tupac.
They're talking how I'm rich like Trump, you know, holding cash like Trump.
Such a nice guy, Joe Rogan, isn't he? Really fantastic. Salmon Inquiry, when's this from? Oh, can't even see that. How do you make that bigger? Oh, that's quite interesting. Salmon Inquiry, ministers deny using WhatsApp. Scottish, this from Connor Matchett. They really do believe we're buttoned up the back. We don't believe a word of this. Resign Sturgeon. Ministers have claimed they sent and received no WhatsApp or text messages during the height of the Alex Salmond inquiry, and while negotiating the SNP coalition deal with the Greens. The claim comes in response to 2 Freedom of Information requests to the Scottish Government asking for any messages sent or received by ministers during the months of March and August this year. Honestly. So this is Israel about no vaccinations. So, now 2/3 of voters want a referendum on axing the BBC licence fee. There's another 274 men just be able to walk in by because of the Tories. Don't know who they are.
The Guardian, shall we? An interesting headline in The Guardian. Johnson and staff seen at number 10 event in lockdown. Photograph there of what looks to be a wine and cheese party.
There's Carrie there, so we're not quite sure why Carrie is attending, being a non-elected individual and also not part of the government, why she's attending potentially government meetings.
To change its name. This is because Quidditch organisations have announced that they will be changing the name of the sport to distance themselves from J.K. Rowling, the game's creator, over her views on transgender issues. I'm appalled by this, and I'm appalled that J.K. Rowling is being cancelled. I'm appalled that somebody cannot be tolerated just...
And who's doing all the cancelling? Where's all the cancelling come from? Is it coming from the Tories, the woke Tories that are supplying public money for all these cancelling individuals? I'm sure this is harassment. Welsh and the judiciary are not playing their non-neutral, unpoliticised role.
It's because they have views which are at variance to others. I want those who have the views that they have to be respected. And I don't necessarily think that J.K. Rowling is right, by the way, but I do think that it's wrong for her to be cancelled. What do you make of this?
Well, I take the Douglas Murray view. He calls this the Lady Gagaisation. Born this way, baby. I genuinely believe as a conservative that you own your own body. You know, I don't believe that you have to have been born a woman in
I think that's more of a libertarian point of view, but carry on.
order to become a woman. You own
I love Andrew Walker as well, another great commentator. Subscribe to him as well.
your body, you do whatever you want with it. I genuinely think this ludicrous situation where somebody can simply stand up and say, I'm a woman now, and then they are automatically a woman. I think it's
I'm a woman. I'm a woman. What are you complaining about? I don't know what's the big deal.
That you ought to go through some sort of gender modification to do that. But that's actually not the issue, is it? The real issue here is whether J.K. Rowling is some sort of evil, nasty person that should be completely ignored. Look,
but isn't it more important that somebody as high profile as her, wouldn't we as a society get more value, as opposed to trolling her and cancelling her? Wouldn't we get more value from having the conversation, to understanding the issues that she and many others want to present, so that as a society...
Yeah, it's a one-sided conversation here, obviously, and that's it. What the hell's that? Oh, aye. So I like Mary Oakes as well. She's fantastic. So social media has effed women up. This is, I don't know what...
Her own money. Everyone's always like, when are you getting married? When are you having kids?
Yeah, if you don't do that, we're going to die out as a species.
Never! I plan on being the single, fun, crazy, rich...
That'll last until you're 40 and then you'll look stupid.
Bad bitch forever.
Yeah, that's really sad, honestly. I don't know why I'm single.
I want everyone to look at me and be like, that my best friend. She a real bad bitch, got her own money. She don't need no nigga on the dance floor. She a 2-3 drink, hey, that's me, that's my bitch.
Okay. Lord Frost has stayed true to his political principles, and that's on Unity News Network. Go and have a wee look at that one.
Have got their hooks into the police force insofar as they have, is because many policemen want to protect the vulnerable. They want to feel that they're doing something really helpful and morally worthwhile. They are protecting the weakest and most vulnerable members of our society. How did the idea get embedded that certain points of view, certain expressions, certain opinions are actively harmful to already beleaguered minorities? Why were the police so easily persuaded of this?
I don't know why they were so easily persuaded. I think it's a lack of critical thinking. I think that they were desperate to relieve themselves of the guilt handed to them on a plate by McPherson in terms of their response to the Stephen Lawrence inquiry. The Lawrence inquiry, it asked them to hold a mirror up to themselves and look at their own attitudes. And what they did is they deflected it. What they did is they took the lessons of the Macpherson report and tried to apply those to everybody else. So it's you check your thinking is far easier than me check my thinking. That's what they did. The other problem is this. Following my High Court victory, I had a sit-down meeting with the Chief Constable of Humberside. And I said to him, look, I kind of understand why an enthusiastic young officer came off a course and did what he did and got it entirely wrong. What I don't understand is why somebody up the chain of command didn't apply some common sense.
Seems like you're not applying the actual laws for the identification of mass rapes that are happening all over England and in Scotland now, because under wee Nippy, and they're being covered up. There's that fellow again. The government is betraying Brexit yet again, says Tim Black, and that's in spite. Greta Thunberg inspires school to ban glitter and cut back on Christmas decorations to be eco-friendly. Oh my God. She's just the person you wouldn't invite to a party, isn't she? Sarah Palin wouldn't get COVID vaccine after recovering from virus.
Think about this, the fact that Quidditch is now cancelling J.K. Rowling, the lady who came up with the sport, or thing, whatever it is.
What an utterly horrendous and crass betrayal of everything that J.K. Rowling has done to give these people these ideas which she has allowed them to use freely and to do what they want with. It's absolutely laughable, and it's if you look at what J.K. Rowling has said, she said absolutely nothing that is transphobic, unless you think that the whole concept of biological sex and women are real things and are human beings. Unless these are unutterable words, then she has said absolutely nothing that is transphobic.
So that's from GB News. Transphobic. Coast Guard call out reports on deflated dinghies being found at St Margaret's in Kent as hundreds more illegal immigrants because of the Conservative Party arrive in Dover today. So what they're trying to do, what the globalists are trying to do, is erase the population, and basically this has been done deliberately, just the same as way it was done under Merkel in Germany. When Humberside police tried to intimidate Harry Miller, they picked on the wrong guy. They would be policing our streets, not our tweets. Quite right. Thought policing now under the Conservative Party.
The vaccine should be reserved for those at highest risk of this disease. I have not said they shouldn't be used. I've said that they should be reserved. We should not have universal vaccination. We should absolutely not have vaccine mandates. That is, in my opinion, illegal and grossly immoral. You know, based on the Nuremberg Code, the Common Rule, the Helsinki Accord, everything else, we do not have adequate disclosure. And unfortunately, as the data have emerged increasingly, I'm increasingly forced into a position where I'm not sure if they even have a merit for those at highest risk, particularly given that we have therapeutic drug strategies that work, that keep people out of the hospital. And then, as if that wasn't enough, the data with Omicron is creating an even greater imbalance between risk and benefit. I think that it's likely in the next few weeks, I'm going to have to shift my position and say that I don't see how the risk-benefit ratio for these mRNA vaccines or adenovirus genetic vaccines make any sense for anybody anymore.
Wow. Elizabeth Warren, test positive for COVID-19. Pocahontas, poca nonsense. Absolutely one of the worst senators you could possibly imagine. Poca nonsense. While the Scottish Libertarian Party support privatisation, it's not the remit of government to sell off publicly owned entities to cronies. Corporatism and politically backed interest groups allow the free market to compete with the NHS, remove all regulatory obstacles to individuals buying healthcare. That's from the Scottish Libertarian Party. The moment you realise that taxation is theft. There's the Greens, all hypocrites as well. One rule for them, one for you. Oh. And there's me froze again. I don't understand why this keeps freezing. Oh, I'm going to get you as well. So, vile biatch, let's make her famous like the other races. So, obviously other types of racism exist. We've already seen somebody who has made false allegations because they're a Muslim.
Fucking milk. Yeah? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Move away. Okay, I'll tell you what. Where is it? Where is it? Where's your bag? I'm a white prick. Oh my God. I'm a white prick. White prick. I'm a white prick. Don't start with that shit, because that's what causes it. That's what I did. Fuck you. For no reason. Listen, I'll give it to you. I'll go and get your bag. I'll go and get your bag. No. Just to let you know, everything's being recorded. Everything is being recorded.
Oh. Rules for thee, but not for me. And let's see all the women and children, coming over through Soros, but primarily through our Scottish government. Nobody knows who these gentlemen are and where they're from, just appearing on the shores. So this has been facilitated by the Conservative, Labour and Liberals and other globalist shill parties. So nobody knows who these guys are. So we've got Remainer, Tusk now with Lord Frost in the post-Brexit talks, so that's great.
Anthony Fauci misled the Senate when he said that the NIH
so this is from Fox News.
Did not fund the gain-of-function research. Should you have fired Fauci?
So a lot of people ask me that question, and I did it right. Because if you do fire him, you're going to have a firestorm on the left again, as usual. And I didn't listen to him. If you think about it, he wanted to keep our country open to China, and I closed it. He wanted to keep our country open to Europe, and I closed it. He talked about masks being no good. Well, I'm not a huge mask believer, but I think they have some purpose. And now he's a radical masker. I mean, everything he's done, he's a great promoter. He's a bad pitcher. He was telling me what a great athlete he was. I said, you can't throw a baseball 15 feet. I never saw that. Was, other than President Obama, it may be the worst throw I've ever seen to home plate. No, I think I did the right thing because we would have had a firestorm. Less of a firestorm now if he was fired, because he's been wrong so often. But if you think of it, he wanted to keep our country open to China, Europe, and all these places, and I didn't do it.
Trust replaced by Frost, so Remainer in. So problems for Northern Ireland and the unionist population over there. Boris obviously walking away from Article 16. Nicola, the Scottish Government has sent out wannabe TV star Jason Leitch to do media today and will be waffling utter poo on Geisler. Where is Hamza useless when he has been banned from doing TV interviews for another week? What's this? Will you listen to the SNP? Gender agenda. Gender agenda. Should people wishing to change gender need to be assessed by expert medical professionals, or should be allowed to self-ID? Self-ID 29%, BSS 71%. Should trans women gain access to female-only changing rooms hospital wards and women's refuge if they still have male genitalia? 33% yes, 67% no. Should under 18s be able to change their name and sex on school records without parental consent? 27% yes, 73% no. Scottish ministers claim they do not use WhatsApp during Alex Salmond inquiry or Green negotiations. Wasn't me, didn't do it. And the Scottish ministers claim they do not use WhatsApp during the Alex Salmond. What is he saying, man? Lies. I'll wait till that kicks up.
Policy as it stands right now is to put in place the infrastructure to have our own currency as quickly as possible if we need it, but to use sterling whilst it's still prudent to the benefit of the people and the benefit of Scotland, and therefore maintain maximum flexibility. Would that sum up in a nutshell what the S&P policy is?
I don't think it would be right of me to allow a definition to be imposed upon us without going back, looking very carefully at.
We'll have to try.
But I think I am safe enough in saying that the SNP is in a position to say that we would like to move to a currency, our own currency. That will happen when it is appropriate to do so. But the objective is to make sure that we have the confidence of essentially that means that the economy of Scotland and the people of Scotland are not damaged by that process.
So forgive me, the policy as it stands right now is to put in place the infrastructure to have our own currency as quickly as possible if we need it, but to use sterling.
Right. So, as you can see, Liz Truss was a Remainer, and now she's in charge of the Brexit negotiations. Theresa May in sheep's clothing. Again, the Conservative Party, with a few notable exceptions, are a globalist shill party. I told you this, even Boris, you still get the open doors, mass immigration of men just being able to walk into this country. They are losing it, they know it. Sajid launches a brutal rant on unvaccinated Brits. What's Baldy's problem with unvaccinated? If you've had it, you're immune. So I don't know what Egghead is moaning at. Charlotte coughing cheese chugging things. Piers Morgan, footballers who refuse to be jabbed should be refused treatment for injuries. Oh, that makes a lot of sense, Piers. What about the ones that have died of a heart attack and that's not been taken into consideration? Why don't you do some background research into the significant number of sportsmen and women who have actually had heart attacks on the field or at a very young age after taking the COVID jabs? After all, why should they trust doctors about treatment for broken legs and torn ligaments if they don't trust them on life-saving vaccines? I've had COVID. I didn't need the vaccine. Didn't have a vaccine. Didn't need it. Didn't go to hospital. Didn't phone a doctor. So I don't know why they would need to take the vaccine. And especially if you've already had it, you've got natural immunity, which is better than actually having the vaccine. By doctors. So here's two Islamic fellows, and this is in HMP Whitemoor, Cambridgeshire, savagely attacked with shanks, men shouting Allah Akbar. Oh well, that's good. That's nice to know. Good to see they're attacking the infidels with the help of Boris Johnson. It's smart at the neck. See this guy here? It's cutting at the neck. I don't know why they're dressed like this in a prison. Just attacking the guy's neck. I don't know why this guy is so nonchalant about how this is actually working. I don't know why he's alone as well. Nearly 1,000 foreign criminals are on the loose. So thanks very much, Conservative Party. And Priti Patel, I'm hard on crime and not deporting terrorists and other people who are a direct threat to the UK or the people here, thanks very much, that's very clever. So a Christmas parade in Winter Gardens, FLA, I don't know where that is, was forced to be cancelled after a car driven by Tyrus Baker and his partner allegedly accelerated towards a crowd and crashed into another occupied vehicle, injuring the driver. The suspect was then tried to escape. 2 arrests after suspect drove into crowd at Christmas parade. So echoes the last African American fellow who drove into a Christmas parade, killing 5, injuring a lot more. FU BBC, evil propaganda machine, well done, troops. I'm not sure what that was in. Oh, that's Glasgow Freedom Rally. Brilliant. There's the troops there. Standing up for freedom. Am I there? I should be here somewhere. Oh, there I am there. Look at that. Doing my great job there. So, yeah, big scenes there over the weekend. So I'm trying to look for something in particular. Let me just like my own stuff.
Do you know what I believe? Can I tell you what I believe? I believe that majority of people that are anti-Islam, yourself included, I don't know if you're anti-Islam. Why would you say I'm anti-Islam? Okay, yeah.
So are you pro-Islam? I'm not sure if this... I don't know if this guy's a Muslim or what his jackanori is, but the things he says is really incredibly stupid. Racist versus white Muslim. Ah, right, I see he's a Muslim. Right. So, well, how could... I don't know what this guy is over here, but if this guy's white and this guy's white, how can he be a racist thing, even under Marxist logic?
If you are, you seem to have concerns about it, yeah?
You know, you could be a paedophile, and that's why you're a Muslim.
Most of these people don't know much about Islam.
But I know, I've stayed in the Middle East, I've read it, I know exactly what it says.
I believe Islam, Islamophobia, let's say, I don't like...
There's no such thing as Islamophobia, an irrational fear of Islam. We just saw a guy getting burnt to death in Pakistan by a mob who understood what Islam said.
I like that term either, because it's not an irrational fear. It is...
Oh, right, so there you go. So it's not an irrational fear. Let's just hear this guy again.
Fear. It is racism.
Right, sorry.
Let's say, I don't like that term either, because it's not an irrational fear. Don't know much about Islam. I believe Islam, Islamophobia, let's say, I don't like that term either, because it's not an irrational fear.
Well, that's correct. It's not an irrational fear, so it is a rational fear. So I need to come up with some word to mean a rational fear of something, and I'll come up with that by myself somehow. So this guy has just said Islamophobia is a lot of nonsense, which is correct.
It is racism.
Right, so Islam's not a race, and I don't know how many times I have to say this. Islam, if you're a white Muslim, and I was complaining about you, if you're saying white people are a race, which is stupid in itself, and this racism comes from the communist Trotsky, who killed thousands and thousands of people anyway, and you're using another word coming from the Marxists who have killed 100 million people, and also Islam is not a race, it's a political and religious ideology, that you're just talking nonsense right now. And if you're a Muslim and white, how can it be racist if the other guy's white as well? So just absolute waffly nonsense.
Linked heavily in it. I believe
No. I think raping kids, having sex slaves, burning people to death in Pakistan, killing people for blasphemy, killing people for apostasy, killing people, non-believers, raping children, sex slavery, having sex with children. I think all of that matters, and it's very surprising that you would be part of that. Maybe you're a paedophile.
when people are talking about Muslims, they are talking about.
Yeah, I'm talking about what's in the doctrine of Islam, the Hadith, and what it makes up this. So why are you following an ideology that wants to kill and rape people?
But I know you are.
Or children, and then trying to gaslight us it's racist or this Islamophobia when people are getting killed in this country by Muslims. You absolute dingbat.
But they are talking about the brown man with the beard.
No. We're talking about a political and religious ideology that's literally killing and raping people in this country.
And I believe it's a scapegoat.
No, it's not a scapegoat. 300 million people have been killed, and there's people getting killed worldwide because of Islam.
For that?
It's a political ideology, just like being a Nazi.
Comments on that?
Yeah.
You believe that the brown man is a scapegoat.
I believe most people that are.
No, this is to do with the fact that the globalists have decided we're going to have open border immigration. People are just going to be able to walk in this country, do what they want, and the Labour Party, the Liberals, the Greens, the SNP, Plaid Cymru are not going to do anything about it. They're going to gaslight us as if this is a normal situation, where they've basically chosen to give away the country and say it's refugees when they've already signed us up to the Barcelona process, the UN Compact, the UN Treaty and Treaty on the UN Treaty on the Union of the Mediterranean, which is basically de facto open borders, and we're still following the underlying globalist agenda, even under Fat Bojo, which I said is another just globalist shill.
Islam, the Muslim immigrants and all that.
The Muslim immigrants and all that. There's been 70 mass murder attempts throughout the UK. There's mass rapes. A guy just got 6 Muslims just murdered a white child. I've just got 27 years in jail and tried to stab 2 other ones. And that not to mention Chris Donald, not to mention all the other ones.
These are people, because you know how I know? Because they speak to me differently to they speak to the brown guy next to me.
Well, I would speak to, if there was a brown man next to you and he'd rejected Islam and I knew that you were a Muslim, I would be talking to you differently.
I'm telling you that as a fact.
Right, can I tell you?
Yeah, well, your prophet raped kids.
So do you think...
So Nicola keeps blocking people. Nicola's blocked. Oh, Huggy Bear, he's actually very funny. I think he's a Unionist and a Rangers supporter, but he's actually quite funny. So let's see what happened here.
Not because of your ability, but because of the seat and the background of the seat of Bishop Auckland. And your election was one of the really big handful of surprises that took place on that night back in 2019. And you're there because the North East voted for Brexit and Labour had turned their backs on those people and they hadn't changed their minds, and Boris was there saying all the right things. So let me ask you, you owe your existence as a young MP, in part to him. Do you think he can turn this round? Do you think he can bounce from here, or is the party over?
Well, I'd argue with kind of your premise. I'd say that I owe my existence in Parliament to my constituents.
Well, I think your constituents in the whole of England need to wake up to the fact that the Tories are going to do nothing on immigration, not prevent it at all. Even with this new legislation, they'll do nothing.
It's them who put me there, and it's them that I have to be loyal to above.
Up to including the extent of murder and rape of the indigenous population, they're basically treating us as second-class citizens.
All else, and so
but Boris was a part of that, wasn't he?
Yeah, there were a whole range of factors that came into play in that election. But obviously, I have to take a complete steer from my inbox and also use my own conscience as well when voting on these massive issues. And it became pretty clear instantly, particularly on this point about COVID passports, that my constituents were just not up for it at all. The amount of incoming through my inbox, phone calls to the office, people getting really quite, quite excitable about it. It was clear that I absolutely couldn't vote for it. But also, my inner conservative within just said this is a completely unconservative...
Well, it's not unconservative. It's anti-liberal and anti-libertarian. It's completely... authoritarian to actually do this.
Thing to do.
Yeah.
But it can be turned around.
So,
These things
so
can always
you
be
think
turned
Boris
around.
can turn this around?
I
think Boris is following the globalist agenda, whether complicitly or because he's a bit dolly.
I think it's definitely possible. It's going to be a rough ride for sure. I think they're going to have to be some serious changes at number 10, and we need to rebuild that trust.
Last week, batting off emails about whether we should close the church, cancel the services, and all the rest of it. And I just wanted to speak to you from my heart. We are not a cinema. We are not the O2 Arena. We are not a football match. We're not going to play by those rules. We are a family of brothers and sisters in Christ who come together on a Sunday to worship the living Jesus Christ. Not a football match, not a film, nothing like that. I am not going to close our services until I am ordered by law to do so. And even if that happens, it will be screaming and kicking. Because we're not...
Right, oh, fantastic. Oh, this is a cracker, this. Look at these. So Nicola Sturgeon, Lindsay Donaldson, Fiona Hislop, fresh face youngsters, Ricky Bell, Whiteford, and Angus Robertson. So that's a long time they've known each other. I mean, that's pretty bad haircut, that. I'm not saying that she's a lesbian, but certainly got that lesbian-onion look, hasn't she? So Imran Hussain, Labour MP for Bradford, never mentions the 1,400 children had been sexually exploited in the Bradford area. Grooming gang jailed for a total of 132 years for raping and abusing underage. So Muslims, child rape gangs abusing white underage girls in care. Drug dealing and organised crime. Oh, aye. So, I think this is Paris. Yeah, Paris. This is the globalist agenda. Oh, well. I'm looking for something in particular. Pay attention to who's paying attention to your kids. Aviemore, women won't wheeshed. You're blocked. Where is it? I'm looking for this in particular. I cannot find it. This guy. It's going on here with WWE UCF. Oh my goodness. Oh, this is brilliant as well.
Kamala Harris took a break from plotting to throw old Joe down
Yeah, definitely subscribe to this, Mr. Dice.
a flight of stairs to do an interview on Comedy Central that actually turned out to be quite funny. although that wasn't exactly the plan.
So who's the real president of this country? Is it Joe Manchin or Joe Biden, Madam Vice President?
Come on, Charlamagne.
Come
on. It's Joe Biden.
I can't tell sometimes.
No. It's Joe Biden. It's Joe Biden. And don't start talking like a Republican about asking whether or not he's president. It's Joe Biden.
Do you think Joe Manchin is a problem?
It's Joe Biden. And I'm vice president, and my name is Kamala Harris.
Well,
is that the way she speaks to Joe Biden so he remembers?
she a little bit defensive.
I'm speaking.
Oh, but who cares?
Yeah.
Everyone knows that Joe Biden's not running the country. He couldn't even run a coffee machine, let alone hold a press conference without his staff giving him a list of approved reporters to call on so that he knows what questions they're going to ask so he can...
So his £6 trillion Build Back Worse proposal didn't go through. Two Democrats blocked it, which they did the right thing.
Hopefully remember his rehearsed lines.
And now I'm happy to take some questions, and I'm told I should start with AP Zeke Miller. Zeke, you have a question?
That's some press conference. That's certainly not how the press conferences went for Donald Trump.
The supposed president has to be told who to call on because the most powerful man in the world can't decide for himself who he wants to talk to. He even let it slip that he was going to get in trouble if he didn't follow his caretaker's directions.
Order a Let's Go Brandon shirt.
Now, why don't I take some of your questions? I'm sorry I'm going to get in trouble with staff if I don't do this the right way. Jennifer Jacobs, Bloomberg.
Don't do the right way. Okay, jeez. Oh, there's another 559 my illegal immigrants just been able getting ferried across by the RNLI. Oh, that's good, I didn't realise that was a taxi service for the Conservative Party for illegal immigrants.
Is I want to say by April of 2020, it was clear that the vaccine development program was far more advanced than we ever could have imagined. How could we have actually figured out the neutralizing antibodies and have the sequence to the spike protein and have all that ready to go? Have already figured out how to load it into messenger or adenoviral DNA. How do we actually get that to run? Remember, there are 24 of these platforms. They had all previously failed except for patirisan. A lot of people don't know this. There is a messenger RNA product. I can use it as a cardiologist called patirisan. It's a small interfering messenger RNA that we use to treat amyloidosis. But the previous trials of gene transfer technology, which is what these are, were normally to replace
gene transfer technology. That's what you've all been sticking in yourselves.
Place a missing protein. So, for instance, I'm a cardiologist. I treat a condition called Fabry's disease. It affects the heart. There was a messenger RNA program to basically replace the missing enzyme, alpha-galactosidase. But in this case, to take these platforms and say, you know what, these are ready to go. We're just going to insert the code for the spike protein, which is now what we've learned is the lethal part of COVID-19.
The spike, all right.
The ball of the virus, the nucleocapsid, that beach ball, is relatively harmless. What causes all the damage is the spine or the spicule on the surface. Everyone knows a cartoon of the virus. That's called the spike protein. 1,200 amino acids, about a dozen glycosylation sites. It has some homology, by the way, to HIV. And so a lot of people don't know this, but the
flying AIDS
one of the original antigenic vaccines that was tested in Australia exposed that HIV epitope. It turned everybody in the trial HIV positive.
What?
Who took a COVID-19 vaccine in Australia.
What?
These young people were outraged. And so this was on the internet. It was quickly suppressed. But if anybody wants to type this in right now, you can actually learn that one of the very first vaccines tried in Australia actually turned everybody HIV positive. They didn't have HIV, but there was a molecular trickery that was going on.
Wow. Oh, I keep losing this, right? Anyway, I'm going to search for this way. I'm going to search by sexual Oh man, honestly. Videos. Let's see this individual.
That woman. Do it again! I don't even stand Stray Kids, but I'm so mad and I feel so bad for her. I would like to sincerely apologise to that woman. Do it again! Do it again and again! I don't even stand Stray Kids, but I'm so mad and I feel so bad for her.
Just sanctions. This is it. This is what I'm looking for. Looking good. Have you got a boyfriend? Want to meet? So the guy's just asked politely if the person's got a boyfriend, because obviously if he has, paid her a compliment, asked if she's dating anybody, asked if she wants to go on a date. That's sexual harassment now. How are we going to meet? Are we going to have to do Morse code? So the guy just looked at her, could have been wondering what he did. Women overly defensive. Guy just ran past, smiled at her, and didn't say anything. So that's sexual harassment. Funnily enough, Manchester, I'm sure this comes from Manchester, and Manchester couldn't actually... Oh, it is. It's from Andy Doughball Burnham from the Grampian region, who couldn't actually get the child rape in his greater... constituency by Muslims, and he seemed to be able to ignore that. But this fellow jogging past this woman overly defensive, I don't think the guy said anything to her, but that's harassment. So the guy jogging past the woman, looking at her, quite obviously harassment. Somebody asking a woman out on a date, obvious harassment. Asking, you look great, do you have a boyfriend, would you like to go on a date? Harassment. 2 lesbians and under Sharia, maybe harassment. But the rape of children by Muslims in Andy Burnham's constituency, just forget about that.
Oi, look at her.
Oh, look at her. Okay.
Very nice.
Paying a compliment.
Yeah, she's alright.
Yeah, she's alright. I don't know many guys that do this. I don't see this on a regular basis. I used to go out a lot, and paying a woman a compliment, I mean, really.
Yeah, no worries. See you soon. Bye.
Touches a woman's stomach. I mean, I don't know many guys that have seen that happening. Don't see that. Maybe touching somebody's back or something. Maybe.
Watch it, love.
Watch it, love. Alright, so he's bumped into her. So is this meant to be bumping into her? Or is this some strange way? Is he just literally bumped into her and said, watch where you're going, because the woman was on the phone not paying attention? Right, I see. But the creepy music and the way that this is framed, none of this is harassment. But what it does is it takes away the fact that Andy Burnham has not actually done his job and caught the people who were raping kids, Muslim people who were raping kids in Greater Manchester.
Hey, beautiful. Gives a smile.
Paid a compliment, asked to give a smile. Obviously, complete harassment. I mean, don't pay women compliments now. Don't ask them out and dates. Just let Muslim men rape kids and they'll get away with it because Andy Burnham's useless. Right, I see.
They look much prettier when you smile.
Paying him a compliment.
Hey, don't ignore me.
Being a bit overly verbose here.
Come on, love. Think you're better than me, yeah?
Self-control issues. Maybe she's a lesbian, mate. Maybe Andy Burnham's done something about lesbians. Maybe he needs to do something about Islam.
You're not even that fit. What? You're not...
The guy's obviously upset at the woman walking away.
You invite me now?
Yeah, you're asking for it dressed like that.
Yeah, I think that's Muslims.
Are we off tonight? She definitely wants it.
No, guys don't talk like that.
Oh, he's sexy.
Unless they're Muslims.
Do you think this is okay?
Well, you've just added in a whole bunch of random weird stuff at the end of that. So a lot of it was okay, but the random weird stuff at the end that was to heighten and the intense music. I think what this is to do with is the fact that the globalists, including Birmingham, are now trying to make it weird, asking out somebody on a date, paying a woman a compliment, and if you're bumping into a woman who's not paying attention, then that's creepy weird from the guy's point of view. What this is, rather than Andy Burnham going after people who are actually being sexually assaulted in his care, he's meant to be looking after these children who are being raped from teenage years. He's gaslighting the public as usual. So some of it was okay, a lot of it was just paying compliments, the heightened music at the end. So basically, again, this is similar to the crap that they put out in Scotland. Paying a woman a compliment, asking them out on dates. How are we going to actually reproduce if you can't ask somebody out on a date? I obviously stopped doing that a long time ago, knowing that this was the sort of feminazi crap, and especially the doughball Andy Burnham, who nobody would want to spend more than 5 minutes in a room with, is pushing this, paying compliments, and now, yeah, so some of it was okay, yes. The creepy stuff at the end was obviously done to heighten, but I could do something completely reverse just on what's happened to me, and it'd be a million times worse than this. But yeah, there's certain types of male harassment that are not acceptable. Shouting out cars when walking along alone and things like that. But certain things like asking women out on a date, asking if you've got a boyfriend, asking somebody out, all you have to do is say no, I've got a boyfriend, or no, I'm not wanting to go out with you. Most guys will accept that. You're not my type. That's enough. There's this doughball, absolute idiot of an individual. Can't wait to get to talk to you.
Murders of women, Sarah. Last year.
Andy, why do you not talk about the Muslim raping of children in Greater Manchester? That Paul Hutchins, when he was calling me all sorts of things, your report on your failure to actually protect children who were in care, just similar to the same thing that happened in Glasgow, under your watch, under the Labour Party, and now you're gaslighting everything else with regards to this?
We had some awful, appalling, tragic murders of women. Sarah Everard, but there were other cases as well. And there was an outpouring of frustration and just complete distress from women all over.
It's funny that the feminists never actually talk about the rape of children by Muslims all over England, and neither do the Conservatives, the Labour, or the SNP, the Greens. None of them actually talk about this. They just gaslight the public.
The country, and to be honest, I thought and listened more about this issue and listened more than if I'm honest, I ever had before.
Yeah, because you were covering up the mass rapes of children by Muslims in your constituency.
What I heard was the public debate was in completely the wrong place, particularly the message coming from police and public authorities saying, oh, women should do this to protect themselves, or they should...
Yeah, they cover up and do what the Islamic Sharia.
Do the other. And of course... the issue is with men, lads and boys, isn't it?
Well, especially Islamic ones who think it's okay to harass women who are non-Muslims.
That's where we need to start, and that's where this campaign grew from, that recognition that this one's on men, lads and boys. We've got to own it. We're the ones who need to make changes.
I don't even speak to women these days, so I don't even know, apart from online, I don't get to speak to women on a daily basis, so I don't know who the man, lads and boys. I don't see any of this being carried out, and sometimes I see a massive overreaction to something very simple. So even if you're polite and you can say something respectful to a woman, they can overreact and twist it like that article was actually twisted. You're not even protecting things that are actually real crimes, and neither does your doughball compatriots in the Communist Labour Party.
And that's what the Is This OK campaign is all about. We're going to take the...
but it's still not addressing, does Islam encourage the sexual assault of women, and still not addressing that, are you, doughball?
This OK campaign into schools, colleges and communities in 20...
But if their doctrine says it takes 4 male witnesses to have a witness a rape, for example, under Sharia, they don't care about you taking into schools. They've already got an ideology that says something different, isn't it, Andy?
2020.
But you can't say anything because of the votes.
This video is just the starting point, but already it has prompted a huge conversation across the country, and we're really...
Well, yeah, maybe you want to have a huge conversation. Well, let's listen to the rest of this nonsense of Sky News about what's actually happening.
Pleased about that. People have really engaged with it. The video we produced has had over 3 million views, and that tells you that something is needed here. People are crying out for this.
Yeah, but you're still covering up the rapes of children by Muslims in your care.
Conversation. And I think the vast majority of men and boys are decent people, and perhaps sometimes we may not realise how behaviour may impact on girls and women.
Sometimes women over-exaggerate very simplistic things. If she was on the phone and rather than this scenario, bumped into the guy because she wasn't paying attention, then took the nip, which I've seen is a more realistic scenario than this. The person overreacts to something, or doesn't react in the right way, or does something to provoke something, like the Muslim girl in America, in the school, and the hoaxes it. There's all sorts of other things.
Women, and it's about...
Well, maybe sometimes about the men.
That honest conversation, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think you could have an honest conversation, Burnham. I think you're another gaslighter.
And making sure that people understand how...
That's why the Labour Party are non-existent in Scotland.
You know, what conceived...
We've got Humza Useless, the member of a child rapist death cult, in charge of Labour in Scotland.
Sort of fairly normal behaviour or innocent behaviour actually isn't when you...
Yeah, neither's all the mass rapes of children by Muslims all over the UK.
Consider its effect on other people.
So what also happens is, that's how the gaslight, that's the gaslighting here. What is sexual harassment and rape in Guantanamo Bay of ex-prisoners. So we've now seen this is harassment. I'm not going to stand for it. Sexual harassment is wrong, and those who engage in so-called step down. I don't know what this is. I can't even see. So we don't even know who that is. So sexual harassment is wrong. That's probably happened to me probably 20, 30 times over the years by women. So I'm not quite sure, and I don't think. I think the equality that they keep waffling on about, it's not equal. I wouldn't report that, the sexual harassment, but the fact that sexual harassers can be women as well.
Over his involvement in that scandal. And this apparently may not be over, because there are criminal charges against Governor Cuomo, a DOJ probe, and a separate criminal investigation that you are also leading into Andrew Cuomo's book deal.
Wow.
What can you tell us about that?
So let me just say, let's back up and let me restate the facts. So
these are a really terrible bunch. These are the same people who had already jumped to judgment on Justice Smollett, which is now a pseudonym for lying.
In March of this year, the former governor referred the matter to my office. He said then, I trust Tish James. I believe in Tish James. Tish James is doing a good job. Let her investigate.
Right.
So I've decided to appoint two independent attorneys. Whose reputation is beyond dispute, who have engaged in previous investigations of individuals who have been accused of sexual harassment. They interviewed over 174 individuals, hundreds of thousands of documents they reviewed. The evidence was overwhelming, and the investigation concluded that, in fact, the former governor, fostered a toxic work environment, and, in fact,
That's just feminist gobbledygook, a toxic work environment.
Harassed 11 women.
Which is quite a lot of harassment. But innocent until proven guilty. Sexual harassment.
Yes, you fucking bitch! Listen here!
You ugly fucking cunt. I beat my dick to you every fucking day. Fuck you, bitch. Fuck everything about you. I beat my dick to you every fucking day. I beat my shit. So many kids wasted on you. I wasted all my fucking energy and kids on your bitch ass. Fuck you. Fuck everybody in this E-Date, man. I wanna let you know you a bitch. Fuck you. You can suck my fucking dick. Cause listen, hey, nobody in this E-Date wants you. Stop feeling wanted. Nobody wants you. You nothing but a fucking thought.
All right. Speed is crazy for that. I don't even know how you got in here. Sorry about that, Ash. I just want to say, Ash, like, straight up.
My goodness. And here's me defending men, and we end up with that. I can see that as harassment. Let's see this fellow. Sexual harassment against gay men. What's going on here?
Thing is, like, people not respecting boundaries. But when I say that is, I also want to add one more thing that I've been talking about with some of my mutual. The women who do that, I don't know. And
it's weird to get compliments from females, genuine. Well, I likewise to be cracked onto by gay men as well.
It's not all women, it's some. I don't know if they're trying to see, like, oh, is he truly gay? Or if they're attractive enough to turn out a gay man, or what. I don't know really what it is.
Seen gay men try and do that with me.
But those same type of women who do that, they would not date a bisexual man. And I know that kind of leads into like a different topic, but I mean, it's very valid.
I would date a bisexual woman, no problem, and have. So, let's see the gaslighting. So, false sexual, false politically motivated sexual false politically motivated sex crimes. %17% resulted in sexual orientation bias. 2.4% were motivated by gender identity bias. Learn about hate crimes. So it doesn't even tell you. Let's see if we can get in Google. Honestly, that's DuckDuckGo something. Don't know what's. I don't know if ruin lives. Here we go. Journalists. When hashtag MeToo began to circulate in digital and social media, it challenged a familiar perception, interpretation of those who are raped and sexually harassed as victims, positioning women as embodied agents. Yet, almost exactly a year after the MeToo movement shot to visible prominence, a different, though eerily familiar story began to circulate on same multimedia platforms as Me Too, a story about white male victimhood. I think, regardless of the ethnicity of the individual or race, which this is trying to allude to, that false allegations of sexual misconduct or exaggerated or deliberately misconstrued stories it should be a crime and should result in prison time. If somebody makes an allegation, the other person should be able to say that this allegation is false, which means that both parties are then eligible to be imprisoned, and there should be a trial and potentially polygraph tests should be used, because obviously, rather than the Islamic Sharia, where that law then requires 4 male victims to witness the rape, then a proper justice system would then have both polygraph tests for the accused and the accuser to find out if this has actually happened. And probably there'll be certain circumstances where the thing could be beaten, maybe by a sociopath who believes their own lies. But it would be difficult for both parties to do that, and it'd be easier to actually prove that that person may be a sociopath from various tests that can be taken to find out if there was actually underlying psychological problems. Powerful men in positions of privilege, almost always white, began to take up the mantle of victimhood as their own, often claiming to be victims of false accusations of sexual harassment and assault by women. So it might be interesting to find out, like what happened to Alex Salmond, where we don't know the identities. Now, this has been proven that all cases against Alex Salmond were proven to be not guilty, and one was not proven. So I would suggest that the person's anonymity should be lost if these false allegations, to find out in case it was coordinated by, let's say, hypothetically, somebody like the First Minister, and that had been deliberately coordinated as a way of destroying a man's life. And if there was polygraph tests, we would actually then be able to find out if what was actually true and what wasn't true. And also the severity of harassment. We just saw somebody getting asked out as harassment. Now, in work, yes, that could be well construed. I wouldn't be asking people out today in work or making any other comment, but bumping into somebody in work where the person wasn't looking where they were going because they were on the phone, to me, isn't harassment. That's the person who bumped into them. That girl who attacked the boy should have been punished, but she then made false allegations. So she should have been doubly punished. If you're making false allegations, you should go to jail, and go to jail for a long time. This is a failure in our judicial system to hold both parties to account. And you have to, if you're making false allegations, you need to go to jail to protect other people. This person could be a prolific liar. Through the analysis of 5 public statements by highly visible, powerful men who have been accused of sexual violence, I argue that the discourse of victimhood is appropriated not by those who have historically suffered, but by those in a position of patriarchal power. I would say that these potentially could be getting used as a means by feminists to dispossess individuals of power, and we have to find out if these allegations are true, and if they're false, the people who are making false allegations need to go to jail. And we have to do more to find out who's telling the truth. Andy Burnham can't even imprison Muslim rapists who are raping children in his care. Almost all of the statements contain some sentiment about how the accusation occasionally acknowledged that actual violence ruined their lives. Well, sometimes it's not, and sometimes it's the other way around. False political accusations. 12 reasons why rape is not sexually motivated. We are all victims. The truth about false accusations by women. So this was 18th of September 2018 by Kitty K. Some name. Bobby Bobster. The truth about false assault accusations by women. I don't think it has to be necessarily by women. I think it could be false allegations by anybody. Brett Kavanaugh has denied the allegations against him. Either Brett Kavanaugh or Christine Baisley Ford is lying. It's interesting that Christine Baisley Ford has all of a sudden came forward after all these years, right before he was due to be elected as the to the judicial system, and again looks politically motivated by the feminists. And if she was lying, she should have done a polygraph test, a state-sanctioned polygraph test. And if she failed, she should go to jail. That could be another motivation. We've already seen, as I said earlier on, the accusation against Trump dropped. We don't know which one. And this seems to be a general pattern by the globalists, not actually identifying the rapes of children throughout the different various boroughs in England, covered up by the Lib Lab Con Party, the Greens and the SNP, covering up the mass rapes of children by Muslims. More and more of that's going on, as I've shown in other ones, other videos, podcasts, and that's been facilitated by the political class. Here's what we know. Over the past 20 years, only 2 to 10% of rape accusations. Professor Ford, lawyer, says she believes this was attempted rape after proven to be fake, argued the authors of a 2010 US study. Over the past 20 years, only 2 to 10% of rape accusations. Professor Ford's lawyer says she believes this was attempted rape are proven to be fake, argue the authors of 2010 US study. The figure does not include any unsubstantiated accusations where an investigation was unable to prove a sexual assault occurred, so an accurate figure for the total remains unknown. Other studies have figures in the same range. FBI have put the number of unfound rapes that determined to be false after investigation at 8%. Fake rape accusations get a lot of attention. Both the Duke lacrosse team in 2006, and it just comes into the more and more lies that are told, and nothing is done about the liar. And this is the problem. Like Justice Smollett, the problem is not just those that have done it, and this is why it would help individuals who were sexually assaulted, who want to bring forward legitimate claims, if we do polygraph tests. And that will also weed out the unsubstantiated and fake rape accusations, sexual assault accusations made in work and outside work, and these people should be going to jail. So both Duke lacrosse team in 2006 and the alleged University of Virginia gang rape in 2014. Again, more of these false allegations that are coming out in school as well, widely covered by the media. There was terrible miscarriage of justice, yet they're allowed to get away with it. They're allowed to destroy people's lives and get away with it. Over-exaggeration, false allegations, misinterpretations, deliberate misinterpretations of what actually happened, lies completely about what's happened as well. All of these are deliberately done to prevent and make false statements. So, a useful article in Quartz by Sandra Newman points to research from the British Home Office showing that in the early 2000s, of the 216 cases that were classified as false allegations, only 6 led to arrest. So sexual harassment on men don't lead to arrest at all, even though there's a very low conviction on women and others who are harassed as well. I'd like to know the figures on sexual harassment against men. Of those, and sexual assaults against men, on those 2 had charges brought against them, and those 2 were found to be false. The idea that lots of men are going to prison because they're falsely accused of rape isn't supported by the study. Moreover, official figures suggest that the number of rapes and sexual assaults which are never reported to prosecutors far outweigh the number of men convicted of rape because of false allegations. Indeed, it far outweighs the number of fake allegations. Well, I would suggest that we probably don't know the number. Figures from the US Bureau of Statistics suggest that only 35% of all sexual assaults are reported to the police. Don't know where the figure's coming from with that. It also usefully looked at what we know about the kind of people who make false allegations to see if Professor Ford fits a pattern. According to Sandra Newman, every academic study on the issue finds that the most common type of fake accuser is actually a teenage girl trying to get out of trouble. Maybe like the Muslim student in America. Often it is her parents who reported the rape attempt. Interesting. The study suggests that the false accusations can often stem from something as absurd as finding an excuse for missing curfew. According to a 2017 report by the US National Institute of Health, fake accusers were primarily motivated by emotional gain. Most false allegations were used to cover up other behaviours such as adultery and skipping school. Many cases of fake accusers has a history of lying to authorities over committing fraud. She may well have a criminal record. In the Duke lacrosse team case, the woman in question, Christine Magum, had reported a previous assault in which no one was charged. She later faced attempted murder charges and ultimately went to prison herself over the fatal stabbing of her boyfriend. Wow. Christine Baisley Ford clearly did not fit the profile. She is not a teenager. She had no history of fabrication, although this could have been a politically motivated false sexual assault allegation. The years after, just before the judge was about to be elected. She had no history of fabrication. She does not have a criminal record, which makes her the prime subject to be a Smollett, a rape suspect that's a Smollett. As far as we know, that she's trying to cover up some other behaviour. I know, but this could be politically motivated, just as we've seen Smollett could have been politically motivated by the political class. She could have been a political agent for the political class. That's what she could have been. And the failure to actually identify political motives for sexual crimes, to actually destroy an individual's reputation by false allegations, and also the fact that there's no polygraph test being used in this, and if she had failed, she should have gone to jail. That would have potentially drawn light on motivation as well. So I don't know why this is not done by the police, that there is some sort of lie detector test, and if the person maybe is a sociopath or has got some way of actually beating the polygraph test, that maybe should be taken into consideration as well when actually doing it, both the accused and the accuser. The truth, in telling the truth, but it does not suggest we should be sceptical of the notion that it has come for women to say they have been sexually abused when they haven't. It's not. Well, I would suggest that potentially needs looked at again, and find out who has and who has not been abused. But politically motivated false sexual allegations seem to be on the up, and also we have to find out how to actually prevent these from happening. Justice Smollett's of the sexual abuse and feminist variety, and false, even if these are even minor accusations, we have to actually be able to see what would be a false minor accusation as well. But yeah, there could be political motivation behind sex abuse